Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa Raspberry, and I'm with the CS for All Teachers community, which is facilitated and managed by the American Institutes for Research. We are so glad to have you here with us tonight. We are going to get started shortly, but I see that Michael has already asked for you to get started by sharing and introducing yourself in the chat window. Give us your name, your position, and your city and state where you are. It's always very cool for me to see folks and just how spread out they are. I'm here in Durham, North Carolina, and it's an exciting opportunity to connect with folks far and wide. As part of our conversation tonight, we do hope that this is very much a discussion, and as the screen says here, we do want to hear from you. We just request that if you're not speaking, that you mute yourself. And the way that you do that is either if you've connected by phone, you can do that directly on your phone itself, if you're on like a cell phone, for example. But if not, if you're not on a cell phone or on a landline and aren't sure how to mute, you can also do that on your top toolbar. So if everyone would just take a moment now to go ahead and look up on that top toolbar, you should see kind of a darker gray, almost black toolbar across the top. And then I have a phone, or if you've connected by your microphone, you might see a microphone icon. And then there's a drop-down menu where it tells you that you can mute yourself. And then when you're ready to speak, you simply unmute by going back and unclicking that to unmute. But we do hope, again, that you will chat with us in the chat window and also orally. We have two wonderful guests here with us tonight, Michael and Sam, who are going to talk to us about tips, tricks, and resources for pre-K-5 teachers, for CSF Week. It's so exciting. It's here already. I can't believe. I don't know. November just flew past. So without further ado, I'll be here in the background to support any sort of technical issues that may arise. But I know that I'm going to leave you in good hands with Michael and Sam. And I will let the two of them introduce themselves, and we'll get started here shortly with our discussion. So, Michael and Sam, go right ahead.
Great, thank you, Melissa. Sorry, I'm looking at one name saying another. Thanks for having us. We're really excited to get to be here tonight with you guys. I'm Michael Stone. I'm the Director of Innovative Learning for a local nonprofit in Southeast Tennessee. In my day job, and in my not day job, I run a startup company that brings professional development to teachers across the U.S., specifically focusing on computer science in elementary school and project-based learning integration. Sam, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'll jump into the presentation here.
I'm Sam Berg. I'm the middle school computer science coordinator for the Oakland Unified School District in Oakland, California, and I've been focusing on middle school, but also thinking about how we are building out our program in elementary school to feed into what we're doing in middle school. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sam. So we're really excited to have Sam joining us, and really excited as I'm looking at the chat window with everybody introducing themselves. We're a little small in number with 6 attendees, but I think we're 6 attendees, a couple presenters, and Melissa representing 9 states, if I'm counting correctly. So that's really exciting. That's wide range bang for the buck there. So with Computer Science Education Week just around the corner, we wanted to just take a little bit of time here at the beginning to give you a quick synopsis if you're not familiar. CS Ed Week is an initiative that started a few years ago now. Originally it was pretty focused on CS education policy, and it was a lot about just sort of trying to create a a groundswell of momentum around computer science in the country. Over the years, that has evolved, and while there's still quite a bit of advocacy work that happens during CS Ed Week, and it's great to highlight the need for computer science education, when Hour of Code started through code.org in 2013, and really they themed CS Ed Week around Hour of Code, it became just a whole other animal. So now there's teachers all over the country, 350 plus partner organizations that participate in it. Really students, as you see on the map, students all over the world will participate in Hour of Code events, and teachers from beginner CS teachers who maybe have never brought computer science to their classroom before, all the way to veteran maybe even AP teachers that will participate and facilitate CS experiences in their classroom. So as I look through the list here, it looks like we have a number of computer science or STEM teachers or specialists in the chat tonight. So that's great. I'm going to assume that you're relatively familiar with CS Ed Week. As we jump in tonight, before we really get started with the nuts and bolts of the webinar, I want to mirror what Melissa said earlier, and that is that while we have prepared a small slide presentation, small slide deck, and certainly I get passionate about this and I could personally just ramble about it for hours, that's boring and not particularly productive for anybody. So what we would love to do is engage those of you that are here in the audience and participating. We would love to have you chime in, ask questions. Feel free to ask questions in the chat window, but we would even more so would love to hear your voice and just have some lively dialogue as we go. And we're going to ask a couple of questions along the way, and I'll just warn you now, there might be some moments of awkward silence as we just wait, because just like in the classroom in a webinar, we have to wait a little bit to make sure we're getting some audience participation and feedback. But what we know and what CS for All Teachers is all about is about creating community and about connecting teachers and literally connecting teachers across the country who are like-minded and who are having similar and shared experiences. So those connections happen a lot better if it's not just one or two people talking the whole time, but if we can get everyone engaged. So that's my beg and plead, and with that, we will just jump right in. So if you have never if you've never participated in CS Ed Week, I'd be remiss to not encourage you to start here. You can go to code.org, participate in their Hour of Code. They have just a wide array of free resources, great web-based applications where you can bring students really of all ages into computer science, give them an initial experience, and quite frankly, if you've had students that have never done anything with CS before, this is a great way to whet their appetite. And for those of you that work outside of the classroom level, maybe work with multiple teachers, this is a great way to get teachers on board who maybe are skeptical. It's a simple ask, give us 1 hour, let's see what happens if you let your kids engage in just 1 hour of code. And the website there has just tons of resources, not just in terms of for the kids to use to get into CS, but also for you to help advocate for that with parents, with faculty, and with administration. But looking at the chat window, I'm going to work from this assumption that as I see a lot of CS teachers listed, that we probably are relatively familiar with Hour of Code. And if you're not, their website is made for you to just kind of go in and 1, 2, 3 jump into it. So we wanted to ask kind of this question in our minds, and in my work with computer science teachers in elementary school, we're constantly asking this question of sort of how do we move from a one-off Hour of Code experience to creating a culture of computing in elementary school. And while I have a lot of opinion about this, I'll save that for another day and maybe a blog post. But we'd love for you to start sort of thinking about during CS Ed Week, while Hour of Code is a great way to kind of whet the appetite and get multiple sort of newcomers involved and starting to adopt CS, the real goal is, well, ultimately for me as an educator, the real goal is to figure out how to make classroom instruction as effective as possible. And I believe to my core that computer science can be a mechanism to do that when teachers embrace, sort of find a couple of tools that work for them, embrace those tools, and figure out how to integrate those tools into their classroom in a way that computer science doesn't become this sort of waste of time, sidebar experience, but instead is something that enhances how they teach those core subjects. So making a cute slide and talking about cultivating a culture of computing is significantly easier than actually doing it. So I wanted to ask you, what are some myths you've heard about computer science? And really what we want to put here is, what are some barriers? What are some things that you as a teacher or that in your school that you've seen with other teachers, what are some things that just prevent you from or prevent others from bringing computer science and authentic computer science to their classrooms? And this is the time for the awkward pause till someone jumps in.
All right, I'll jump in.
Great.
From an elementary perspective, a lot of districts in our state have trouble with finding the time.
Awesome. Time. Okay, that's great. Thank you for jumping in. I thought that might come up. Let's see. Yeah, Carol, that it's only for computer technology teachers. Jill, when you run into the time issue, do you have a particular solution that you lean on?
It usually depends on the district. Some districts look for specials, and some are interested in integration of some sort.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, Sarah, that's absolutely true. I think one of the interesting things about computer science, my undergraduate degree was in computer science, and I became a math teacher after a little bit of time in the field. And it only occurred to me when I started traveling the country and visiting, particularly visiting elementary and middle school classrooms, it occurred to me that most teachers didn't take computer science as a subject probably ever. And so there is this serious kind of unfamiliarity with what it is, and that certainly creates a feeling of discomfort when it comes to bringing it to the classroom. I think that's undeniable. Give me one more minute. Anybody else have any any other issues that you see that come up, or sort of barriers to bringing computer science, particularly to elementary school? Yeah, no
I
doubt.
can bring another one up that comes up. There's limited scope and sequence because the whole framework is fairly new. An aligned curriculum.
Yeah, absolutely. I see a couple more typing. We'll give them just a moment here. Yeah, Jill, while they're typing, I think that that's absolutely true. And I think that kind of falls back into that unfamiliarity piece where whether we've been trained to teach math at a high level or not, most people have a pretty good sense, kind of K-12, what a math pathway looks like. But when you talk about scope and sequence and computing, it gets pretty conflated pretty quickly. Great. So we brainstormed this some, and you guys are all over it. Not surprising that you sort of see this, but I was trying to think about what are myths that we hear, and when we're training across the country, we see this all the time, right? I don't know computer science, so that means I can't do it. I can't teach it. It's only for those kids that are already sort of innately interested in it. We hear a lot of resource issues, right? We don't have enough computers, or I've only got 4 iPads in my classroom of 25 kids. What am I supposed to do there? Or we need better, faster, fancier machines. And then the one in the middle is the one we hit all the time, and we hear that associated with the time issue all the time, right? That well, we can't do CS because we don't have time. It's a waste of time from stuff where we could be spending time doing focused. Excuse me. It's when we're doing computer science, we could be spending that time, focused on a tested subject. Yeah, just as a heads up, I think Melissa earlier informed everyone how you could mute your mic. If you'd like to jump into the conversation, feel free to unmute your mic, and we'd love to hear from all of you. The typing's nice too. I understand it. I'm one. If I'm not leading the webinar, I'm probably typing as well. But please feel free to jump in and unmute your mic to do so. There's a green microphone icon up in the top left of your window. You can mute and unmute yourself there if you'd like. So I'm not going to focus on actually solving any of these because that would take forever, and I don't know that I have real solid answers. But I do think there's some comfort in knowing that we all play from this in this space where there are some real legitimate things, and there's some comfort in knowing that we're not the only ones facing these barriers. I do want to speak briefly to the one in the middle about sort of this time issue where any time that I'm doing computer science in my classroom, that is stealing time. that could be spent on core content areas that are tested. And in another life, I talk a lot about kind of state level testing and high stakes testing, especially in elementary school. But I also understand that that's an arena that administrators play in, and it's an arena that states play in, and because of that, in the classroom, we have to be aware of that, right? We have a responsibility certainly to teach those core content pieces. But what we're trying to push more and more, and there's some research starting to come out to support this, but just anecdotally, I think teachers that bring computer science to their classroom, especially in elementary school, see this and attest to it, that computer science can be a mechanism that brings a level of authenticity to learning where students can engage in making real products. And even if those products are digital, for a 21st century student, digital products are real products, right? Those, even if it's not tangible, making a functional app or a game that works is a real product. That's a real thing to them. That creates a level of engagement that's hard to foster in any other way. And in the elementary classroom, when you can engage students in that sort of problem solving, you can start to use that as a mechanism to embed other core content areas. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on today. So this evening, I will say, I think it's really important working with, as a teacher, if you're advocating to administrators, or as a district level person advocating to administrators why they should consider bringing computer science to elementary school. We've got to find ways to make sure that CS doesn't just show up as a sideshow where we all go to the lab and do it once a week and check the box that we did CS, because that there may be some credence to that's a waste of time. We instead have to figure out how to pitch CS as something, and how to package it, not just pitch it, but actually make it something that enhances how we teach core content areas. So with that said, I wanted to highlight a few free resources. We did call this Tips, Tricks, and Resources for CS Ed Week. So I wanted to highlight a few resources. I'm going to turn it over to Sam, and he's got some very specific activities they're doing out in Oakland that he's going to share with you. So before we go to the activities they're doing out there, I'm going to share with you just 5 free resources, totally free, that you can use at the elementary level. Some of these are relatively new in the last 12 months. Others of them have been around for a decade or so. But they're wonderful options to bring computer science to your elementary students. So here's the kind of landing page slide, but I'm going to jump right in here unless there's any questions, and I'm trying to keep an eye down here. I will say this is not an extensive or not an exhaustive list. There are dozens of other, maybe even hundreds of other available resources. But these are some. The ones we're going to highlight tonight are some that we've used in elementary school, and we've seen quite a bit of success with. Also, these are ones that are entirely free and don't have a paid option, so you're not getting lured in with the 10-day trial kind of stuff. So we're going to jump right into CodeSpark. CodeSpark Academy with the FOOs. We actually had their co-founder, Grant Hosford, co-presented a webinar for CS for All Teachers in the spring of 2017. And we just absolutely love this app, and I'll say for me personally, I'm a dad of three daughters. I've got an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old and then a newborn. My 8-year-old and 5-year-old just both absolutely love the FOOs. It is definitely our favorite educational app at the house. But we're using it in the classroom with teachers. We love several specific things about it. First, and most importantly, you'll see on the slide here at the bottom, their main website, if you Google them, their main website is just thefoos.com. But if you go there, that is their premium site for parents. So if the average parent wants to buy this app for their students or for their child, this is a subscription-based app. However, Grant and the team at CodeSpark are dedicated to teachers always having the app for free. It will always be free, not just for teachers, but for their entire classroom. So in the fall of 2016, they released this dashboard.thefoos.com, and it includes a full teacher suite, a full curriculum, as well as sort of student tracking. You can set up a classroom. You can manage all of the student accounts in one spot. It's a really slick resource. But at the end of the day, what the app really gets down to it is you play through, participants play through, or players play through a series of puzzles where they're acquiring new kind of fundamental coding blocks as they go. So it starts very sequential, as you can see in the screenshot there. And it really is just about sequence, but they get into some looping They get into a little bit of higher level computing. But what we love about it, there is no literacy barrier at all. It's specifically designed where students never have to read letters or numbers. It's all visual, and so students as early as really kind of 4 years old can jump in and start solving problems. What we also like is it's not just a puzzle-based app. So as they finish stages of puzzles, usually 10 to 12 puzzles at a time or grouped together, it unlocks a gaming platform where they go and can create, the players can create their own games that using Foo characters, but in a totally open-ended environment. So if you think about sort of gamifying Scratch Junior, where students are playing through a puzzle version of Scratch Junior to sort of learn the basics, and then they're empowered to make whatever it is that they would like to make and share it and play other people's games. It's a really powerful tool, and they just released their they just released their new curriculum, which is just a fantastic resource for teachers. Makes it really simple to figure out ways to bring this to your classroom. For the like pre-K through second grade, as students are still developing as readers, this is a fantastic free solution for teachers to consider. Moving on, Codable is another really popular, this one's been around a little while now, but another really popular elementary school level coding platform. What we like about this, they've actually developed a full-out curriculum for coding that is actually, so we talked about scope and sequence. I will say I have not seen that this is actually aligned. I need to double back on that. I haven't seen they've aligned this directly, like mapped it to the CSTA scope and sequence, but what they have done is created a clear pathway for pre-K through 5th grade where students start in a totally visual drag and drop, kind of sequence-based, as you can see in the screen here, kind of gamed programming platform, and they move into, by 5th grade, they're actually using syntax-based or text-based coding. So it sort of builds in that transition that as educators we've kind of struggled with, trying to figure out when should a student move from a block-based code to syntax, and I know we could have a hefty debate there if we wanted to. But not saying they're right, but what is nice is they have a turnkey solution that's totally free. Also, they recently released, they now have, it's a web-based platform, so you can access it, you can use it from any machine that can get on the internet, but they've also released an iPad app that works offline. So if you have dicey Wi-Fi in the classroom, you can load the app on to the iPad, it links to their student account, they can do whatever they can engage with the game offline, and then when the iPads get back online, it syncs automatically to their student account, which is just a nice solution because I know the schools that we work with, particularly here in Southeast Tennessee, we have some infrastructure issues regarding Wi-Fi and accessibility in some of the classrooms that we go into. So that's a nice little piece. This will be a little quicker. I'm going to sort of assume just by looking at the introductions that most of you are probably familiar with Scratch and the Scratch Ed community, but I would be remiss to talk about how to bring strategies to bring computer science to elementary school and not mention Scratch. This is really a wonderful resource, and it integrates nicely with some third-party hardware pieces like Makey that are command-driven, where you're able to put kids in an environment where they don't have to know the syntax. The drag-and-drop nature of the program feels very similar to excuse me, the Code.org's platform. But it's really robust and it's capable of doing quite a bit. So there's a number of even at the collegiate level professors that are using Scratch as a great way to introduce students, even at the collegiate level, to computer science. So I think it's important to make sure we touch on that, and the Scratch Ed community, which is available through the scratch.mit.edu website, is a wonderful resource, and it just continues to grow, probably faster than they really keep reins on it, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Excuse me. And then finally, new to the block is Codemoji. And I've been looking up, trying to how to say this, and I'm still not sure I'm saying it right, but I can't find a video where they call it by name. So Codemoji, I don't know how you say it. It's an interesting new, relatively new web-based platform where students can, again, create sort of open-ended programs. It's not gamified, so when I say that, I mean they're not trying to solve a particular puzzle. There's not necessarily a task that they're driving towards that's built into the platform itself, but they have released a curriculum as well, and they specifically target elementary school teachers. So they have released a curriculum for elementary teachers, and what's fascinating here is you are actually coding with emojis. You are also coding emojis. So as like the iPhone X has the new Animojis, where you can animate emojis with your face and augmented reality. This is sort of a hybrid of that, where rather than using like face tracking, it allows students to use drag and drop or syntax-based code, but their syntax uses, they use like a real language syntax. It's a really interesting sort of emergent platform. They've got some bugs to work out. Frankly, it's a little bit, it could use a little more refining on the user end, but it is a startup and they've been getting after it and doing really great work. And as you can imagine, giving students the opportunity to code emojis and to code with them is a really fascinating option. So I'm going to pause here for a second, and I see in the chat window, thank you, Melissa, for sharing that. That's the link where the webinar and the slides will be available. And I just wanted to ask, we've had a few people join in. Thanks for introducing yourselves. I see you, Chris, and then Deanna. We would love to open it back up. Feel free to unmute your mic. And I'd just like to ask if anybody else has another resource or two that you really love in elementary school, for elementary school students in particular, that you'd like to share. Oh, nice. No problem, Karen. And if you're not talking, if you could mute your mic, we're getting some feedback somewhere. Yeah, Elena, we love VBox as well. I was trying, for the sake of the webinar, to keep free resources as best as possible, but if you haven't used them, Elena, I'd love to have you talk about them some, but I'm happy to pitch around them if you don't want to.
That's fine. I'm Elena. VBox, because I'm a special ed CS teacher, it's very easy, and my students love it. I teach pre-K, well, not pre-K, I teach K through 8th grade special ed CS, and some of the population, they're autistic, some of them are behaviorally challenged, so a lot of the classes where my students have autism, I use the VBox for them because they love it, and it's just, again, free readers, you don't need to know any reading, and so it's just really a lot of logic that they're doing to solve, to have the robot go through the different mazes, so it's a really great, I love it.
Awesome. I just posted a link for VBot. Yeah, I agree. When we talk about using computer science to like enhance core content, I think VBots are wonderful for that. For those not familiar, VBots are sort of sequence-driven robots that you code on the bot themselves. You don't have to use an iPad or an external resource to code them. And they're wonderful. We've got a number of teachers that use them for teaching sequence. And it's fascinating. Elementary teachers, when they talk about sequencing, almost exclusively talk about it from a literacy standpoint. Myself, coming from a CS background, I think of sequencing slightly differently than from a literacy standpoint. But VBots are a really interesting way to bridge that gap. Where, for instance, they'll have on a grid for the VBot to navigate around, they'll put different scenes from like Little Red Riding Hood. And as a student reads Little Red Riding Hood, they have to tell their partner how to program the robot to go to the scenes in the correct order, and it forces them to use transition words first, next, then, later, that sort of thing, but with a very physical, tactile context. And it's a fascinating way to sort of use, and a subtle way to use computer science to shore up and add practicality to some of the literacy skills that students are learning as early as 1st or 2nd grade. Anybody else with a resource they'd like to share? Carol, I'm actually not familiar with hopscotch. I'd love to hear more about that. Although you can type because you have laryngitis.
You
Sorry
said
about
the
that.
VBox is
And
a paid
Chris, while we're
platform.
waiting,
Do you
Chris,
have an
Sam is
idea
actually
on what it
just
costs
about
for
to talk
district
about
or
that. So
classroom
yes,
feedback?
we do have some ideas around that. He's going to give you some very specific ideas in just a moment. Yeah, so VBots are actually little robots. They sell them for $96 per robot, or you can buy a hive. They look like bumblebees. You can buy a hive of them, and I don't remember offhand what it costs. I want to say they're in the $600 range. I think, yeah, it is $600 for a hive, which includes a charging station and a backpack to sort of ship them with. But they use they're all rechargeable batteries, just plugs into the wall. They're all good to go. They're extremely simple, and so there's no like ongoing cost. It's not like a paid platform like a subscription cost. You just have to purchase the robots. Thanks for sharing the link, Carol. That'll be great. I'm excited to learn more about that. Oh yeah, Heidi, that's a great option as well. There's a couple more typing here. I want to encourage you as we are about to move out of sort of the resources part of this. I think it's really important when we talk about how do we continue to advocate for CS and ride this wave of momentum and make it something that's more popular, particularly in elementary school. My wife was a first grade teacher for a decade, and when I talked with her, excuse me, she was aware of thousands of resources for literacy and math and even history and science. But when we talked about computer science, she just didn't know what was available. So, I mean, as we are able to just off the top of our heads, even here tonight, list out a number of great resources, I think it's important to try to make those resources as available to everyone as we can. Let's see. I'm seeing some action down there. Grants that would help. Yes, I definitely don't have an extra $600 laying around, Chris. There's, hopefully you're in Indiana. Hopefully you can find some regional grants. There's a lot of opportunities to find sort of smaller, like $1,000 and under grants to pursue those. But that's definitely why we wanted to try to find offer as many free options as possible. But obviously, when you start using robotics, it ups the cost a little bit at least.
Not necessarily programming, but is computer
science. Oh yeah,
thank
you for sharing, Elena, on Hello Ruby and.
One of the things.
You mean like computational thinking?
I was muted. Yeah, or like I think about the Facebook framework that, yeah, computational thinking or computer action or data analysis.
Ruby is my K through second graders, and it's a book, but there's also a website. So pretty much I would read a chapter every day, and each chapter addressed a computational thinking concept, whether it was abstraction or decomposition or, sequencing and so on. So it's about this girl going on an adventure and encountering all these different aspects of, solving these problems, and each chapter reinforces one of those computational thinking concepts.
Gotcha. And did you use that? Computer science?
Because I have a tech lab, I did this literally as I did a read aloud, then there are activities. So each chapter at the back of the book comes with activities. You can either make a copy of the activities related to the chapter, or you can just go onto the website and print out those activities. So they would, the main character in the story is a little girl, and the first chapter is about sequencing, and then at the back of the book there's a little you can make copies about that sequencing activity, which is the kids going through a different maze, and that's how they really connect it. Then there's one on abstraction, which is like the big picture and so on, and then the back of the book has an activity to go with what abstraction is, all on a children's level, K through second grade level.
Awesome, thank you. I'm checking it out.
You're welcome. I mean, she just did a new one in October, which looks at inside of the computer. So kids learn about the computers and database, not necessarily database, but they learn about networks, which is the internet and so on. You're welcome.
That's wonderful. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Elena. That was great. Yeah, I think that's really important. Jill, thank you for asking the question, and Elena, what a great resource there. I get a little frustrated sometimes. Common Sense Media has a lot of stuff around digital citizenship, but I think we have to be careful there. Digital citizenship is certainly a part of computer science, but I think obviously not the kind of stuff that we're really talking about here. So that was great. Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready to move forward. The last sort of resource I wanted to make sure we highlighted, I can't get away with doing a webinar on CS for all teachers and not mention the website in the community is a great resource. We're trying to sort of relaunch and kick back into gear our elementary hub. We'll be posting more and more, and would love to talk with you guys if you have resources. We'll certainly be circling back to Hello Ruby for sure, and to get hopscotch. I wish I had known about that before. We'll be circling back to those and highlighting those on the website, as well as it's just a great opportunity that you can create a free account if you've never join CS for All Teachers formally. Create a free account. You can jump into the community and interact with teachers who have, or educators who have similar issues and similar insights.
So I'm the middle school computer science teacher or computer science coordinator in Oakland, and we've used CS Ed Week as a tool to advocate for more computer science in our district, and also to expose teachers and students to what computer science is, get them excited about it. And so I'm going to share a couple different ideas that we're using as a way to help accomplish these two things. So this year we have 3 sort of big pushes that we're doing. We're having middle school students do a walking field trip to an elementary school. We're having community volunteers sign up to do a demo, speak, or lead an hour of code, and we're having teachers lead individual activities. And so I'll expound on each of those as we go forward. The first one is having middle school students do a walking field trip to an elementary school. And so what we're having them do is, these are middle school students that are in a computer science class, and then their teacher's preparing them often with a script about what it's going to be. They go through the hour of code activity they're going to lead with elementary schools, and then they walk over to their closest elementary school. They, once they get there, they break in their class into groups of 5 or 6, and each group goes to an elementary school classroom and then leads an hour of code with that, in that classroom. The things that we really want to get out of this are, it's allowing the middle school students to be experts to teach others, and they're really feeling powerful about that. I just came from the first one of these we had this week. Started CS Ed Week a little bit early at this school, and the middle school students were really excited about showing all that they knew to these elementary school students. The other thing is that it's helping get elementary school started excited about taking computer science when they get to middle school. In our district, we lose a lot of students who don't go from elementary to middle school, so letting them know that computer science is an option, it's something that they're going to do, it's excited about, is a thing to help keep students in middle school and also give them something to look forward to when they get there. At the end of this, each elementary school student gets a certificate that they take home that says, I just had learned about computer science from a middle schooler, I'm ready to be in middle school computer science, which helps get the word out that that computer science is happening, gets parents more excited about computer science. And it also is, hopefully, we're looking for it as a tool to help parents start to talk about, hey, maybe we could do some more computer science stuff inside of elementary school. So to ask admin and to talk to teachers about doing that. The other thing that's nice about it is it's a way to show school leaders that computer science can be a lower lift than they think. Some of that stuff about like, oh, I don't have teachers that know enough about computer science because I don't have a computer science degree to teach this, or we don't have enough computers or the right technology, everything has to be fancy. It's all this kind of stuff we're doing on a Chromebook, and if they walk in and see that happening, it's easier than if I'm going in and talking to them about these things. I think seeing it happen. And it also has a low stress activity for teachers who might want to do something around Computer Science Education Week but are not ready to sign up for something on their own. And so all they have to do is have a projector, have their kids be able to log in the computer, and then these middle school kids will come in and take over and do everything for them. And the hope in that is that as they see, oh, okay, I saw how that happened, they can start to think about like, oh, maybe I could take on something next year. I could do this next year myself, or I could do another sort of activity that they didn't think was possible before. So that's one of the big pushes that we've done this year. Another one is put out a call for community volunteers. So in Oakland, we have a nonprofit, the Oakland Education Fund. They're linked up with lots of different community volunteers. People sign up with them. And so we say, hey, Computer Science Week is coming up. Folks that work in tech, business owners, retirees, parents, would you like to come in and do something during Computer Science Week? There are a couple of options. You could be a guest speaker if you're someone that works in tech, or if you use computers at your job, come tell kids what that looks like. You could do a demo, maybe come in and do, some of the schools have some robots and stuff, come in and do a robotics demo, or bring something from your work and come in and demo it, or do something like lead an hour of code. We do this, it helps get more people involved. Again, it's having activities for CS Ed Week that teachers don't have to plan, so that they can just have someone come in and do something, low stress, again, hoping that they're starting to take on something more in the future. As a word of caution, I like to check in with all the guest speakers about their demos to make sure that it's going to be grade level appropriate. Some people are coming in with like, I'm gonna show this in a kindergarten class, and I'm going to talk for 45 minutes, and as a teacher, I know that that's not going to work. Not everybody that is with the best of intentions is going to come in and understand that, and so I like to give some guidelines and then say, you know, like, oh, okay, maybe you could break this up, or maybe we could do some of this in that way. And then the sort of the last thing that we have is teacher-directed activities, and these are teachers that are choosing activities that they plan for their classes, things that they've found, things that they're excited about, and they're bringing those in. So what we're doing with this is maybe these are teachers that have done Hour of Code, are excited about CS, have found something else out, and now they're coming up with some of the activities that they want to do. It's letting them, students and teachers, try out these activities in sort of a low-stress environment. It's not like, this is tech class, we're going to do this today, but it's, hey, this is a fun time. Let's try this out. Let's see how it goes. And again, exciting parents and school leaders about CS, and sort of beginning our advocacy campaign as we're pushing down from middle school into elementary school. Our long-term plan around teacher-directed activities is to have a menu of options, like a bank where we keep these. So as there are teachers that are coming out of Hour of Code and they're feeling better about what they're doing, to say like, hey, I want to try something different this year. Oh, let me go to this and see which one I want to do. Pick one and do something that way. So we're going to also reach out to teachers who had middle school students come in or had community volunteers come in and say, hey, here's some other resources or activities if you want to do something different, something beyond Hour of Code this year, if you'd like to lead something else. And sort of from a district perspective, we're also using this to create a list of teachers who are interested and excited and passionate about CS. So as we're looking to pilot CS in elementary school, as we're looking to say, try some things out or build out a more systemic plan, that we know who these people are, and we can make sure that we include them and make sure that they're giving us feedback and that we're keeping them in the loop, sort of building out our bigger picture with our computer science growth through elementary. These are some kids doing some CS activities. Any questions that people have about any of those three things, or any other things that have come up?
while you're all chewing on that, Chris, I wanted to circle back to sort of your question about specifically suggestions for getting your feeder school involved with CS. I think obviously here the walking field trips from the middle school make a ton of sense if that's an option, if you're physically and geographically close to your feeder school. Where we're at in Southeast Tennessee, and parts of Indiana probably applies as well. We have several of our schools are in rural communities where the middle school it's not reasonable to think about the students just walking to the elementary school. But even in those situations, just as an alternative, if you can't do a middle school to elementary school field trip, which I think is a wonderful idea, it's very, very cool that y'all are doing that out in Oakland, Sam. Another option, something we've had quite a bit of success with here locally, but really across the state, is we developed a 2.5-hour training. We picked a couple of the resources. One of the resources I'd highlighted earlier, the FOOs, something that was a low lift, that was easy for teachers to use, that we could pitch it at first as just like when your students are in guided reading stations or whatever the reading stations are, the curriculum in your district. When they go in elementary school and they break into station work, oftentimes the elementary teachers are desperate to find a way to have one-on-one time with their students around literacy while they're engaged in meaningful activities at other stations. They're always coming up with creative solutions for that in the elementary level. We pitched to elementary school teachers often that hey, if you've got 4 devices, right, 4 iPads or Chromebooks or whatever, let CS be one station 1 day a week just to get started and see what happens, and to help them overcome the fear of gosh, I don't know what I'll do and I don't know how to manage that. We turned to something like the FOOs that had a dashboard where you could manage the classroom easily. In about 2 hours of training, we could get teachers onboarded to where they felt some level of comfortability, and they could buy into okay, I could see where this could be valuable, especially when we started unpacking it and helping it link back, as I was talking about earlier, helping them see how computer science links back to sort of core curriculum pieces. And while a lot of those apps are very sort of programming driven and not really about CS conceptually, but just more the procedures of programming, at an elementary level, it is at least valuable to start having students engaging in sort of critical thinking and problem-solving activities that way, and just giving teachers access to a little bit of training. And what would be interesting is I'm assuming coming from a middle school level, since you're asking about a feeder school, it'd be fascinating to try to think about a PD for your feeder school that was led perhaps in part by your middle school students. That might demystify some of the clout that computer science brings with it. Another interesting resource that has a ton of free online training is CS First with Google. So if you haven't seen that, you might want to check that out, and that would be a wonderful way because you could actually build out a full kind of K-8 pipeline with that, where if you were embracing CS First at the middle school level, you could then sort of walk it back into the elementary level, and they've already done the legwork for you there in terms of what that would look like from a sequencing standpoint. Anybody else with ideas on what you can do to sort of, to some degree, this is, as we talk about CS Ed Week, this is about bringing teachers into the fold, expanding teachers who are bringing computer science, in particular to elementary school students, and overcoming some of those real barriers that we talked about earlier. Any other ideas, just interesting sort of anecdotes that you've seen work or you're interested in trying? So as we embrace the silence for a minute, we got a couple typers coming.
I had a quick question about CS First. I'm not super familiar, but I thought it was an after-school middle school program. Am I mistaken? Is there stuff that they offer as lessons during the school day for like a curriculum?
So I believe we have just started dabbling in this. It's actually my colleague that leads this work, so I don't want to misspeak here. What I believe he's done. Sorry.
I've used CS first. This is Alana speaking again.
Yeah, jump in.
It is marketed as after school, but I've used it as a curriculum in my classroom. I have middle school students as well, and I see them 3 times a week. And you can use it also in the classroom because it comes with videos and instructional videos and lessons. And it's Scratch. It's based on Scratch. You are using the Scratch program, but you're using it through theme-based. So you're doing Scratch themes of social media, Scratch themes of storytelling, a Scratch theme that's related to sports, a Scratch theme that's related. So it's all using the Scratch programming language, but through high-interest themes.
Gotcha. I'm checking that out now too. That's cool.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, Elena.
We used CS First last year with some after-school programming. It's a really low lift in terms of getting teachers started, and so that was nice for our after-school staff who were very nervous about computing and computer science, that they were able to get started with that and get kids excited about that. And then we're hoping to grow as those kids then come into our middle school program. They're feeling a little more confident in that way. And I think it would be appropriate for 3rd through 5th grade elementary school students as well.
Yeah, I agree. I just texted my colleague that does that work specifically, and he was saying the same thing, that what they did, they started it at a middle school and realized they could walk it back to 3rd grade. So they're essentially using it basically wherever you would use Scratch, as Elena was talking about, wherever they would use Scratch. It's essentially sort of getting a turnkey solution for bringing Scratch and embedding some CS principles using Scratch as sort of the platform.
I am curious that I don't hear a lot of people talking about CS fundamentals and CS discoveries. I see Heidi wrote something down here, but I'm curious if people have what thoughts are about CS fundamentals and discovery.
We're using CS Discoveries as our middle school curriculum, and I think it's great. We're really happy with it. But I think it'd be a big push for elementary school in terms of amount of text, some of the high-level concepts that are happening there. So that's my thought on CS Discovery.
Is it mostly, is it broader?
Sorry, I missed that. Can you say it again?
Feedback? I'm not sure. Is it does it focus on programming, or is it broader?
It's broader than just programming. So there's a problem-solving unit, there's a web design unit, there's a programming unit where they're doing block-based and JavaScript. There's a data unit and a program Internet of Things, which is a little circuit playground, and there's another sort of problem-solving unit, but they're calling it a design thinking unit that happens in there.
Elena, you were coming in and out of mute. I didn't know if you had something you wanted to jump in there or not. I'm sorry? Oh, I would love to hear about what happens, Carol, with Edison. We're going to, part of the elementary push we're making with CS for All Teachers this year, we're going to start doing some product demos, for lack of a better word, specifically looking at what robotics products are on the market and demonstrating several of them to sort of show how you can use consumer-level products to bring computer science to the classroom in a tactile and tangible way and link it to core content. This is great. We are pushing up against the end, but I love that the chat window is rolling, and I'm not going to tell you to stop. That's wonderful. I do want to make sure we turn it over to Melissa in a timely manner, but we're not in any kind of big hurry here. Thank you guys for engaging. We've led several of these. It's nice to have people jumping in. Appreciate those of you that were able and willing to talk, and for all of the great resources that were posted in the chat window. And I want to encourage you, if you are not a member, I'll encourage you one more time, please do consider joining CS for All Teachers. It's a wonderful community of teachers ranging from pre-K through 12, teachers, educators, district level, administrators, all joining in. So we would love to have you guys join on. And with that, Melissa, we'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks so much, Michael. This has been terrific. Let's give a round of applause to Michael and Sam for sharing so much, and to all of you. One of the things that we always want and hope for when we have activities like this is for folks to be interactive and to share, because certainly we have great ideas, but we know that so many of you are doing wonderful things in your classroom, and so we want to make sure that we're able to highlight you as well. I did just want to take some time to talk about a few things that's coming up. Next week, of course, CS Ed Week. Every year, this is our third year, the CS for All Teachers community is doing a photo challenge. It's very, very simple. All we want you to do is next week to post a picture or pictures with the hashtag CS Ed Week 2017 photos, and then you will be automatically entered to win. I've put a link into the chat window here where you can upload your photo directly if you prefer on the website. Again, this is supposed to be starting next week, but you can either do it directly there on the site or use that hashtag on Instagram or Twitter, and it'll be interesting to the contest. We hope that you enter early and often, because we'll pick one daily winner, just a random winner. We'll select each day of the week, and you'll receive, the random winner receives a $50 Amazon gift card for you to use in your classroom. And then at the end of the week, our team here will go through and select 15 finalists to go into a crowdsourced competition to see who has the best photo. We'll make sure to notify you if you're a part of that. And the winner of that can receive up to a $500 Amazon gift card. So someone was mentioning earlier they didn't have that $600 to get the robot or whatever it was. Well, now you'll have $500 at least to go towards some exciting things for your classroom. We also, this is a little bit after CS Ed Week, but on Monday, December 11th, there's an Alabama education chat. One of our ambassadors, Vinny Chiramonte, he just won the Milken Educator Award as well. Woohoo, Vinny. But he's down in Alabama, and we're co-hosting a Twitter chat with them. Even if you're not in Alabama, it's a really popular chat. It's a really great discussion. So We'll be putting out more information about this and what's happening that week coming soon. But you can follow all of this if you are a member of the community at csforallteachers.org,
Thank you.
and you follow us on Twitter. So thank you all again so much.